Next item on the agenda is House File 3558. Chair Mark Order, would you like to move your bill to be laid over for possible inclusion in the tax omnibus bill?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move House File 3558 for possible inclusion, to be laid over for possible inclusion into the tax omnibus bill.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Please present your bill.
So, Mr. Chair and members, House File 3558, basically what it would do is move the homeowner's property tax refund and the renter's refund to the income taxes. You would apply for those refunds, or they would now be refundable credits through the income tax. And so right now, the way it works is that if you're a homeowner, you get your property tax statement in March, should be coming out shortly. And then by August 15th, you've got to apply. And then in August, and usually August, September, you will get your refund check. So you're 5 or 6 months after you've actually received this notice. For renters, they actually have the rent paid through property taxes in the prior year. So like for this year, it'd be like 2021. And then they apply and then would not receive their renter's credit until August or September, which is going to be 8 or 9 months after they actually paid their portion of the property taxes through the rent. So what this would do is move it up so that a person, when they file their income taxes, starting in later January through April 15th, they would fill out that information that was needed and then could receive a income tax refundable credit on much earlier. So they would get their dollars sooner. It would be simpler, and it's going to include a lot of people right now who would qualify but do not take it or don't know about that. And so it would be very separate. So this bill does not recreate or reinvent the wheel. Prior to 1981, the renter's credit was on the income tax. It was a refundable credit. And also, senior citizens for homeowners were able to apply for the credit on their income tax form. But during the budget crisis of 1981, where they had 5 or 6 special sessions that deal with it, they did away with that. And so therefore it was basically a shift. Instead of having a payment in January through April to get the refund, they then shifted the payment into August and September. So it was eliminated solely to deal with a very difficult budget time. So it probably works better for renters than it would for homeowners, just because renters are getting their credit from the year before. So they would already have that certificate of rent paid and property taxes. Versus the homeowner, there's a bit of a timing problem. Back before 1981, property tax statements used to go out in February. So you'd have this statement in February, you'd have to wait. But now those statements don't come out until March, which, if you want to file your taxes earlier, you've got to wait. So there might be a bit of a problem. If this was to become law, you certainly would need to have some education for people who don't file income taxes, what they would still have to do to get the credit. But let me just give you some numbers of the magnitude of this. And this is from the revenue estimate. And you can see the revenue estimate are some pretty big numbers there. I'm trying to catch where they're at right here. But just individually, as far as the result, the second part of the bill is that it moves from household income to federal adjusted gross income. So it would match the income you're doing on your income tax form. So certain things would not have to be counted. And we had some bills in property taxes that did the same thing. And basically what that does, by now not having to count certain income, according to the Department of Revenue estimate, it would lower income about an average of about 14%, which means you would qualify for a larger property tax refund. And some people who now don't qualify would. So let me just give you the numbers and then I'll open it up certainly for questions on that. But for current homeowner property tax claimants, just the language change on going from household income to federal adjusted gross income would increase homeowners refunds about $121 million, or an average of about $210 per homeowner. On the renter side, there would be about 318,000 renters would see an increase of about $40 million just on the language change of the income, and that'd be about an average of about $125 of increase renter's credit. But the number of those currently eligible but not claiming the PTR, that would increase the number of homeowners by 305,000 additional homeowners now would receive the homeowner's credit. That would come to about 340 million with the language change on the income, for an average refund of about $1,114. And for renters, it would impact 120,000 renters who right now are not claiming the credit would receive it, for a total of about $86 million, and an increased renter's credit on the average of $716. Also, just the language change would add 93,000 homeowners at about 53 million, and would add about another 36,000 renters at an average of about $411 per increased property tax refund. So members, this is a big idea. This is huge. This would be some big reform. Like I said, it would bring us back to 1981, at least for the renters. It would be simpler. Renters and homeowners would get their refunds sooner, and it would increase the number of people who should be getting that now would. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm open for questions or discussion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to note that Representative Moran is present. We do not have any testifiers for House File 3558, and so we'll move to member questions. And I see that we have Representative Swazinski. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Chair Marquardt, just a question kind of on the process of the new policy. You know,
you're breaking up, Representative Swazinski. Can't hear you.
Eviction moratorium state how many months? Better?
Try it again, please. Okay, that's worse yet. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I've got a button I control. If I think I'm getting a tough question, I can scramble everything, and I've been pushing that button.
Is it better now?
It is now.
Okay, sorry about that.
Go ahead, my friend.
Yes, it's not a tough question, Mr. Chair. It's an inquisitive one, that's all. So, you know, with the, you know, we had the eviction moratorium for the last few months that we just kind of came out of through COVID. And then we had a lot of defaults, a lot of folks potentially not paying rent. Under this new program, if the state is paying a percentage of rent or have backfilled all of the rent that was owed due, or if someone is actually not paid rent, would the potential renter get all of their money, a percentage of their money under this plan? Or how would that potentially work out? So if the state paid all their rent for the last year, would the person get a refund even though they didn't actually pay rent?
Chair Marquardt.
Mr. Chair and Representative Swazinski, I think that's a great question. And I will have to ask staff to see if they would know, but basically right now, when you apply for your M1 PR form, you've got to have a certificate of rent paid, and on that, we calculate 17% is constituting property taxes. So like I said, I'm going to turn this over to staff because I'm just thinking this through right now. But I would think if in fact the rent was not paid by the renter, that wouldn't show up then on the certificate of rent paid. But like I said, I'm just thinking that through. I don't know, maybe Mr. Williams or someone would actually know the answer. So
Mr. Williams.
Chair Leslie Garden, members. So the property tax refund program definition of rent constituting property taxes is defined as 17% of the gross rent actually paid in cash by a claimant for the right of occupancy. So I think that probably if gross rent was paid by someone other than the claimant or was not actually paid in cash by the claimant, it would not count towards rent constituting property taxes. That's my best guess.
Representative Swazinski. Okay, that must answer his question. Anyone else would like to ask the chair? Okay, seeing no further questions, Chair Marquardt, would you like to have the final? Oh, there we go. We got Chair Joachim coming in late.
Thank you, Chair Lisgard. I feel like I've been talking too much, so I was waiting to see if anybody else would raise their hands. Little chatty today, maybe too much coffee. Chair Marquardt, thank you so much for bringing this bill. The AGI in particular, changing it to AGI instead of household income really makes it a lot less complicated for folks. I don't know if that's what's prohibiting some of the uptake for the folks that could get property tax refunds, but it really does make a difference when they're trying to figure out all these things that they have to add back in. So that part of the bill in particular, I do appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Joachim. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Seeing no further questions, Chair Marquardt, do you have any final words to your bill?
thank you very much, Representative Leslie Gard. Well, I better read the revenue estimate. I found it here, so that's always important. So in fiscal 2023, it would be a $1,545,000,000, and that half of that is the shift of 876 million. That's what's currently spent on the program, and it would now be paid twice in the same fiscal year. So like if we were to put this in effect for next year, for 2022 taxes, they would still get the refund for this year in August, and then starting they would get the credit when they filed next spring. So it would fall into the same year. So it actually has to count twice. So that's half that cost. And then the other half cost is the increase in the number of people that would qualify or that would now claim it, and those that would benefit by the moving from household income to federal adjusted gross income. So again, members, I think this would be very significant, and we've always tried in the tax committee to try to benefit as many people as we can under the law, and also to try to make the system more simple for filers. And this certainly would do that and move in the right direction. So thank you for your consideration, and members, and that completes my testimony. Thank you.
All right. With that, Chair Marquardt renews his motion that House File 3558 be laid over for possible inclusion in the tax omnibus bill.